Why you got it?
Moses.
We want to bring this other brother up. I'd like to see him ask us, who are we? Who are we? We African people? Are we an African people?
Yes.
Are we an African people?
Yes.
Are we an African people?
Yes.
Let me hear.
Yes.
Let me hear, we are African people.
We are African people.
All right. Now where we come from, Caribbean, Cape Verde, South Carolina, Mississippi, Boston, New England, wherever, California, wherever in the house you come from, we are still an African people. Malcolm used to say, he was fond to say, because we were born in the oven, don't make us biscuits. All right? So we are an African people. And I'd like to introduce you to a brother who's been in the struggle actually longer than I've been alive. Not quite that long, but he's been in the struggle for many, many years. He is an Africanist. He's a poet. He's one of Africa's storytellers. Originally part of the committee that put Kwanzaa together, along with what's the brother's name? What's the brother's name? What's his name? Y'all don't know his name?
He's on the program for those who might want to know after the program.
Karenga. Mwalimu Karenga, which means teacher. This brother was one of the original people on the committee that charged Karenga and another committee to come up with something for African people here in America. He is here today to introduce Kwanzaa and give you a little history of Kwanzaa. His name is Askia Toure. He's author of a few books, one of which is, what is it, brother? The Black Power Revolt. He has a new book out, which is Dawn Song. He also wrote this here, the project to the pyramid, the pyramid to the project, rather. His books are available outside. He will do probably some short reading of one of them anyway. But let me introduce you to Askia Toure. Is it on?
All right, fine. Indeed, an honor to be here with at the Bronx, and that's what the young student activist people might have named it, in celebration of Kwanzaa, which was established for our people back in 1966 out of a desire to create liberation holiday. Now, I was just talking to some folks outside. When Kwanzaa emerged, I'm charged to be a jolly or a griot to give you some idea of your history. Now, believe me, Kwanzaa didn't emerge from some nice little group of sisters and brothers sitting around talking Swahili and so forth. Kwanzaa emerged in 1966 out of the flames of the Black Liberation Movement. Totally different period at this time, and maybe African studies people have some of the history. I don't even know what they're teaching you today. I have no idea. I hope, though, in our African studies program that we are getting the history of our liberation movement. One thing that I want you to be aware of, that in 1966, when Malana Karenga and other people came together to develop Kwanzaa, black people were still under apartheid. Dr. King and the freedom fighters in the South were still struggling, marching, demonstrating, getting shot at. Black churches were being dynamited all through the South. Particularly, it's very important for our Caribbean brothers and sisters to understand this, because a lot of times they think we're just a bunch of toms up here doing nothing. And believe me, they don't shoot Uncle Tom like they shot Dr. King and Brother Malcolm and Medgar Evers and stuff. They don't shoot Uncle Tom, they just back him out. 1964 to 1968 or 69 was the greatest upsurge of black people since the slave revolts and the Civil War, before the Civil War. In fact, the period of the 1960s was called the Second U.S. Civil War. You got to understand, bloods were like on their feet. You come from a time when the black community's been devastated with all kinds of crack, cocaine, and stuff pumped in. The black middle class split and went out to the suburbs. That was not the time in the 60s. Black people were under apartheid, and we were all together as one people. And the masses of the people, the working people, the grassroots people decided, like Miss Fannie Lou Hamer in Mississippi said, we sick and tired of being sick and tired. And the grassroots people you see like the brothers on the corners, so forth, in the block, took it to the streets. Now, they didn't just start mess, but what happened? The killer cops, just like now with the profiling, they were shooting people down in the streets, just like brothers from Africa, you see. And they were shooting people down in the streets like that. And the black people decided that we sick and tired of being sick and tired. So in the South, black people began to concentrate, organize, fight the Ku Klux Klan and so forth. They began to blow up black people's churches. Dr. King and them were leading mass demonstrations in the street. They were putting fire hoses and police dogs on our people, just like it was doing our sisters and brothers in South Africa. In the United States, that must be a Civil War, as opposed to the Confederacy. In the rest of the country, black people in the inner cities rose up against the killer cops and began to fight in the streets. Early rebellions took place in 1964. Hundreds of rebellions began to spread across the country, and what they call a long, hot summer. And out of those rebellions of the black masses, that black people said that our slogans at that time were black power. I'll give y'all to talk about that. And y'all got so maybe you don't even. But Imam Baraka, Malana Kareem, who said, "What time is it?" Y'all probably know.
Nation time.
Black people raised their fists and said, "It's nation time." H. Rap Brown, who now is Imam Jamil Al-Amin, would pick up a pack of matches. A light one said, "What does a penny buy?" And the master would say, "Oh, man!" Now, I know some of you genteel ladies and some of them, "Oh, that is so terrible, a bunch of thugs and hoodlums." Oh, you know, but at that time, black people were on their feet, fighting, and said, "We sick and tired, being sick and tired," and began to take the fight to the oppressors in the streets all over this country. And so every time the black people rose up, they began to call me. Okay, I'll give you some examples. You remember the Los Angeles Rebellion? Some of you are young enough to you remember that? Okay, imagine that happening like every summer like that, spreading all across the country. So much so that the establishment media began to call them the long, hot summer, because the black masses would rise up and be fighting. There were major rebellions in Los Angeles, what they call this was the one that you heard about in Los Angeles. Second one, this was the first one. And then in 1967, the major rebellions in Detroit, Michigan, and Newark. And it got so intense in Detroit that black people had military troops on the street and actually fought the establishment, drove the police, the National Guard out, captured tanks, and actually held Detroit until the U.S. military came in with the Screaming Eagles, the paratroopers, and then took Detroit back. Black people had actually militarily captured Detroit. I know you thought, "Oh my God." I'm telling you, that's where you want to know where Kwanzaa came from. That's where Kwanzaa came from. Kwanzaa wasn't no genteel little people talking and sipping tea. Kwanzaa came, black people said, "We fight, we're going to be liberated or die." Just like our brothers and sisters in South Africa. Just like Amilcar Cabral and them beginning of the South. Black people was taking it, were not playing anymore. And that was serious. And also at that time, you did not have the devastation of crack and all of that kind of stuff. You had some heroin, but most of the black people were healthy, working class people who were very stand up, fight for yourself, become a great people again. And just the everyday people on the street were reading the newspapers and so forth, talking with each other and so forth. So you had a different period. Out of that process came, after the major rebellion in 1966 in Newark, came a series of what we call the Black Power Conference. Black people came together, not for just some affirmative action. Black people said, we demand power,
That's right.
control. Kwame Toure and Dr. Charles Hamilton wrote a book called Black Power. If you haven't read it, I suggest that you read it. Black people wouldn't have told, please, just give me a little affirmative action possible. No, black people said, power. James Brown said what? What was the James Brown? Say it loud. What? Black and I'm proud. James Brown took his process off. And can you imagine James Brown with an afro? James Brown had an afro. He said, say it loud. I'm black and I'm proud. He said, I don't ask nobody for nothing. Open up the door. I'll get it for myself. James Brown. So that was an oldie. Anytime you get James Brown going, of course we had the great people's champ. Who was the people's champ at that time? All right, we got a picture of him out there in the hall. He said, they took his crown, they take his crown from him. He didn't lose his crown in the ring. Why did they take the champ's crown from him? Because the people's champ said, he said, no being calm ever called me nigger. He said, I'm the champion of the whole dark world. And they went, took his crown away. That was flip. That was boxing. Took his crown away from him because he refused to to fight the slaughter, the murder of the Vietnamese people. But the masses of our people, everywhere he went, Brother Malcolm was with him at that time. Brother Malcolm was national minister of the Nation of Islam. The champ, everywhere the champ, Brother Malcolm went, masses, thousands of black people would come out, following them, and so forth. This boy's going to make a picture of the champ. I don't know. I think Will probably means well, but the only problem with that, Will has got an image of being a comedian. And one, he ain't big as the champ. You know, if any of you ever seen Ali, he's huge. His shoulders like this, but he was built just like a top, just muscles everywhere, just handsome as he could be. But he was a genuine hero. We didn't have no sweet back superflies and all that stuff. Hollywood gave all them pimps and drug pushers. We had real heroes. Dr. King, Brother Malcolm, the people's champ, Muhammad Ali, James Brown, who changed his hair, said, say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. Maulana Karina, we began to create black studies programs in that period, by the way. I was fortunate enough to be a part of that black studies movement at San Francisco State with Sister Sonia Sanchez, Amiri Baraka, the great playwright, freedom fighter, and other people. And a lot of our students were grassroots people at San Francisco State. We started in the community, and then they opened up San Francisco State. We were having black studies programs in the churches and stuff in the neighborhoods, the community centers. So we took the whole community to San Francisco State. So we had classes, you know, little Junebug and his mother, Miss Johnson, they'd be in the class right with the regular students. We didn't change anything, just like when they opened up baseball and the Negro Leagues came in, all the razzle-dazzle that the Bloods had from the Negro Leagues, Jackie Robinson and them, they brought it on into the thing. We didn't change nothing for anybody, because black people were talking about freedom, and we had something at that time. They call it today Afrocentrism. We called it at that time the African personality. We had great leaders in Africa. Who was the leader of Ghana? Great freedom fighter. Who was the leader of Ghana? Kwame Nkrumah, who had gone to Lincoln University, had been embraced by the black community in Harlem, who was very tight with our great griot, Dr. John Henry Clark. Our elders at that time was Queen Mother Audley Moore, Dr. John Henry Clark, the novelist John Oliver Killer, the great revolutionary thinker Harold Cruz and James Boggs of Detroit. These are people who were laying out our situation. We were a generation who were trying to, our brother Malcolm had said to us, who are you? Like our brother Saeed Bashi. He said, who are you? So what is your name? A lot of y'all say today, oh, you, Toure, how come his name ain't Wade Johnson? What is it? He asked us, who are you? Malcolm said, who are you? Willie Johnson. He said, that's not your name. What's your name? Willie Johnson. He said, that's Will from the Johnson plantation. What's your real name? Why don't you know your name? Why ain't you interested in knowing your name? What did your ancestors do in the world? Why are you not interested in finding out what they did in the world? What did your ancestors contribute to humanity? Why aren't you curious about them, Brother Malcolm X? Who are you, black man and woman? What is your story? And out of that process, those kinds of questions that we were asked, we began that process, that search for liberation, to find out who we were. And we began to change our names from European names to African names. And we begin to say, not only we are an African people, we say, we are an African people and we will win. You see, because we realized we were in struggle. This wasn't a plaything. People were dying all around us. And we were also building black study. A lot of young black study people were Panthers, too. Where does the Black Panther Party originate? Let me ask you, find out, see if you know. Where did it come from? Huh? Where? California? That's not correct. You don't know where the Black Panther Party originated? The Black Panther Party originated in Lowndes County, Alabama. It was the Lowndes County Freedom Organization. Our brothers Stokely Carmichael, Bob Mann, freedom fighters and organizers for SNCC. The white supremacists had a party called the Black Cock Party. The White Cock Party had this white rooster, and the black people get to organize because they were organizing for power, to control their areas and so forth, to control power. And they raised the Black Panther. Once that was raised, black people all over the country then, young black people, Stokely Carmichael, H. Rap Brown, and began to travel around the country, and young sisters and brothers rallied to them. They began to set up Black Panther movements all across the country, one of which you know famously is the Oakland Panthers of Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seale, but that was one of many Panther parties all over the country. I remember one young Panther, Sister Sonia, and I educated at San Francisco State. All of y'all know him now. He was a young Panther then, serious young brother. Wasn't playing, very quiet, very serious. Said he loved acting, maybe want to be an actor someday. You know what his name was? Danny Glover. I taught Danny African history. Sister Sonia taught him African American literature and history. We feel very satisfied that our brother is still here, still conscious, still loves black people, and still acts. So this is part of your legacy. We were told the big Black Power Conference in 1968 in Philadelphia. That was 68 was a heck of a year for us. We lost the great dreamer that time when we feel they blame this little redneck, but we feel the government murdered Dr. King, actually, U.S. intelligence, but they blame this redneck, said that he did it. And black people literally burned over 200 U.S. cities, including Washington, the capital. Black people came together and said that we must liberate ourselves. We met at the Church of the Advocate in Philadelphia, 2,000-3,000 people, led by Father Paul Washington, the Church of the Advocate, very activist minister. We call Dr. Paul Washington the Martin Luther King of the North, dynamic, dedicated minister. We were charged to create liberation holidays for our people. like a liberation holiday. It wasn't just no fashion show to get free. That's all right too, but I'm saying it's more than that. Your heritage is more than looking slave. It's about showing the continuation of principles from your ancestors to struggle for your freedom, to get sovereignty and power, not to assimilate, just please, just give me some whatever, but to actually emerge as a powerful people, as a sovereign, free people in the 20th century. Personally, I don't think that's over. I don't think that we made a number of gains. A lot of you are going to be going out into various fields of business and professions. In that period, 1965, 66, all of that was closed to black people. Even though we didn't totally liberate ourselves, our people, and that's what I'm saying, don't turn up your nose at the grassroots brothers and sisters in the streets, because when it goes down, that's who your fighters are. You hear me? That's who don't, well, they don't, so they will fight for their neighborhoods and for you. Don't ever look down. The problem is the soldiers, the people in the streets that fought, whether they demonstrated for Dr. King and them, or whether they fought the police and the National Guard in the rebellions in the North, when the smoke cleared, they never got anything. All of the openings came from the middle class. The middle class got all the positions. The middle class got everything. Grassroots. You know what the grassroots people got? Dope. Pumped into our community.
No did.
That's what the grassroots people got. So you come of a time with a hip-hop generation, I'm winding down, but you have to know this, sisters and brothers. You come from a time of devastation. A good book to read, if you haven't read, is Dr. Tricia Rose's classic on the hip-hop culture called Black Noise. And she tells how Ronald Reagan and them devastated the inner city, how drugs were pumped in on our people from Southeast Asia and later from South America. And then guns were pumped in to get the young brothers to start shooting and killing each other and to make our communities free fire zones. This is what we've been devastated, and now it looks like we're trying to come out of it again. But so much depends on you, because you are the brains and the intelligence of the black nation. They say among colonized, oppressed people, a college education is like a maximum weapon. But again, like Carter G. Woodson says, you got to know what to do with your education. Because he also said, if you are a miseducated Negro, the man don't have to make a back door for you. If there ain't no back door there, what will you do?
You made one.
Made one for you. Oh, y'all read Carter G. Woodson. I'm glad that one of our great historians was Dr. W.B. Du Bois. So we want to share with you this evening the depth of your heritage with Kwanzaa, and for you to embrace your sisters and brothers who have fought for you. I'm going to end with a short poem, because I think the greatest thing that we can do as a people is for our sisters and brothers to unite together as one, and to come together and say to each other, what are you going to do, black man? To say, what are you going to do, black woman? Said, what are we going to do, black people? So this piece is called African Affirmations, and I'm going to end with this. It starts with 3 parts: she, he, and they together. Listen very closely. She, the sister, is speaking. You bring to me all of your African essence to lay at my feet, the rich, deep sepia soul singing in your touch, your quiet strength, my tender warrior. You are my rock, my joy, my anthem in a bleak and terrible land. He, and you, splendid like pure tropical honey, my queen and regal champion, whenever roads are harsh and rocky, rough-hewn and treacherous, your sweet, intense, angelic voice, immaculately sensitive, brimming with love, awakens the fire
citizens